Evening and welcome to a Tuesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. Well, we're sitting here waiting for some news out of the SEC media spring meeting, which took place yesterday and today. Not a whole lot. You wonder what's going on when they get quiet. Coaches met today and talked, but they were still meeting past the deadline. We'll guess at that. We'll have David Whitley. He'll help us guess with it. We'll talk also about the success of the Gators softball team, which we know is fantastic. Got a big game coming up this week. Nebraska uh, plays the Gator baseball team, and so we'll have that. Lots of information about what's going on in the world of sports. Well, what in the world is happening in Sandestin? Well, I don't know, but Billy Napier did speak to one media person about the fact there's no magic pill. We'll tell you about that and a lot more tonight. We've got David Whitley coming up. We've got Rob Browne from SEC Sidelines and Loren Meadows, the coach, all tonight. It's going to be a good show. Tell your friends and neighbors the Buddy Martin Show is now officially on the air.
Time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Is it a good sign or a bad sign when they're quiet out at Sandestin for the spring SEC meetings? Not a whole lot of news. Matter of fact, the coaches were locked behind doors way beyond the deadlines they expected, and they did not come out and talk right away. So we'll find out more as the news trickles in. Maybe something, maybe nothing. What we do know is we got softball to play here. The Gator softball team playing against the Oklahoma City Cowgirls, and also the Gator baseball team playing against Big Team champion Nebraska, and in Stillwater. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. And Billy Napier said there's no magic pill. I bet this didn't come as any surprise to our colleague David Whitley, who knows there's no magic pills unless he needs one to write a column with. Good evening to you, David. How you doing?
Still looking for those magic pills.
Yeah, boy, you can sure use some nights on that computer when you start typing. You think, where's my magic going to come from? So, but you always manage to do it well. That's why you're an award-winning columnist, APSC National Award-winning columnist that you are. Congratulations for that award. And all right, so there's a lot to talk about here, a lot to sort through. I'll let you pick your topics. I think I'll start with this one on softball, which I think this has been an unbelievable finish to a season. I thought, frankly, 12 games ago was not going to be that exciting, and it is. What's your take on what they're doing out there, and do you like their chances in the Women's College World Series?
I like them much better than I have in last. I can't remember last time. I mean, they made the World Series 2 years ago.
Right.
That was a 14 seed and sort of a long shot. Nobody expected much. And it's sort of funny. After yesterday or 2 days, Sunday, just I keep forgetting Memorial Day, mess things up. But after Sunday's win, to get them to the College World Series, Tim Walton, he more or less he sort of got in a waxing mood, and he said that the program had sort of gotten into a funk. He didn't use those words, but he was saying that in relation to Skylar Wallace when asked what she had brought to the team, and he said that she came in 2 years ago, had to sit out a year, and he said the culture. She was a culture changer, And by that, that means that the culture needs changing. And it was good, but he said, I think that people had sort of gotten maybe a little bit self-satisfied and thinking it was, that it was just so good it's going to run on its own. And you can't stop working. You can't stop treating every day like you're down 3 runs instead of you're up 3 runs. And he said that she was sort of a jolt that they needed to get back to the work ethic that it takes to get out there and to be more than just a long shot. So, if you look at this lineup, it compares pretty favorably to anybody else out there. They won't be favored.
Even Oklahoma City. I don't know, playing there.
In Oklahoma, yeah. Oklahoma will be favored, but for Oklahoma, they've looked semi-human this year as opposed to just like the Terminator.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a glimmer of hope that Goliath might have a weakness, I don't think anybody'd be surprised if they won, but it wouldn't be the shock that it was last year if they lost on this thing.
Yeah.
They got as good a chance as anybody out there, I think.
I got in trouble on the morning show with Shane Matthews about 6-7 weeks ago because we talked about what teams are elite.
Yeah.
And at that time, they hadn't won 11 in a row or whatever they won. They were struggling a little bit, had lost a couple of series. And I said, I don't know whether they're an elite program right now. Well, I got jumped all over. That's semantically, you can play with that word. When does a team, if they were elite, when do you stop being elite? And they were not playing. The elites were the Oklahoma cities of the world and what have you. And so I've taken a kind of a beating, and I'll take it. It's fine. I'll take it to keep on ticking. But I was saying that they hadn't really met the expectations of their coach, let alone, I think, of themselves. And then they maybe looked like fools and did that. But I wouldn't thought you to use the word elite on them, 12 games ago.
No, well, and I think that what Walton said the other day more or less gives credence to what you were thinking. I think he thinks that they may have, in a lot of people's minds, achieved eliteness, but they had stopped doing what it took to be elite.
Right. Good point.
And now it clicked on. They had. It's a long season, so they were went through a mid-season lull there, but it certainly kicked in the last month anyway. And now they've won 13 out of 14. Wallace is back. She had a terrible slump, which is just confounding. It would be like Ted Williams going 0 for 15.
Yeah.
She was like at one point 2 for 19, which is just unfathomable. But she has snapped out of that, and now she's back up and batting about 450.
Yeah,
and she is the tone setter for that team. So I think in a way that in retrospect, if you'd have gotten Tim Walton on the show 11 weeks ago and said, well, buddy, maybe, as you said, elite is an elastic word, but I think he would have said, we're not elite at this point.
That's what I would have said. But nonetheless, I'll say it regardless of how people respond to it, because I like to say what I think. Let me just say this about the coaching job he's done this year. It's one of the best coaching jobs I've seen in Florida in a long time. And that team, you can see them getting better all the time. You watch the series over the weekend against Baylor, and they kicked it away kind of in the second game. Couldn't get their starting pitcher out of the first inning. And then you look at what Rothrock did for those 3 games. I think she faced 247 people or something ridiculous. It was an amazing number of people. Scholar booted one away, as a matter of fact. We should never see that. But when they needed to, in the end, they had the firepower. They've got some awesome players. I don't know if they're a level to compete. Well, maybe I won't say that they'll compete for it when they win the national championship. What do you think, David?
Oh, it can. They got, as I said, a better shot than they've had in a few years going out there. Just the fact they're out there gives them a better shot. They've only made it once in the last, I think, 5 years. And so, this is a much better team than 1-2 years ago. They haven't really had a shot. So, I mean, you got to, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, you can be optimistic or pessimistic about these things. And I
Exactly.
think we got you enough to go out there thinking good things and positive
Right.
vibes about that, and that it's not, they got more than a puncher's chance anyway.
Right. Before we get into what happened in Destin, Sandestin, and some of the things that were said about Billy saying there's no magic pill, let's talk about the baseball team. Baseball team we thought was in trouble. Turns out they weren't because of their schedule and whatever. They made it in, seemed like easily. Now they got a tough draw against Nebraska in Stillwater at 9:30 on Thursday night. According to Nick Delatore, who keeps up with this kind of stuff, he said he was going through the numbers. Nebraska is somewhat of a light hitting team, only 65 homers on the season and a 415 slugging percentage. Gators have 116 home runs and slugging 514 as a team. So we'll see how it turns out. But that's just one take on it. Nick knows a lot about baseball. It would be something to see them turn it around in the World Series, get a chance to make some noise, and it would sure make life a whole lot easier for Sully.
Yeah, I got to admit, I don't really follow Nebraska baseball ever since Tom Osborne retired, and it's just been wrong sport.
No.
Okay,
I know what you're thinking, but go ahead.
Yeah, but you look at it and you say,
Frazier scores another touchdown. No, wait a minute, wrong.
That's right. Yeah. It's not being played at Sun Devil Stadium. That's one big plus.
Yeah.
But long ago and far away that one was. But I mean, they're throwing the Gators are throwing a kid who's pitched for a freshman, Liam Peterson, who's looked good the last few starts. Looks like he may have found something. And I mean, you can see him going out there and winning that game. You're right. If they manage to sneak through this and get to super regional, I think it would take a lot of the steam out of this year and get some momentum going into next year, pretty much.
But you'd like to see Caglione have a little something to take with him,
Yeah. It is. I mean, talk about puncher's chance. That's about all they have.
Oh my gosh.
If you're being realistic about, and it's one punch, and that's Cags. He's the only guy you can.
Didn't have the pitching exactly right. Yeah. We'll see if they get a little better pitching. Some of these guys coming up. Sully usually gets a little extra out of these guys in tournament time. All right, It's time to talk football. I don't know if you followed what happened today in Destin. I tried to watch it as much as I could on the Feinbaum show. All I know is I was kind of anticipating something happening at the end of the meeting because this is today they're going to start with all the money, all that stuff, money. And I wondered how they would receive this and how they react and respond to it. Well, it turns out it's around 6:30 when they were still trying to get them out of the meetings. Let's get them on the Feinbaum show. They couldn't get them out. They were still talking. And I thought, is this the sign of things to come where decisions can't be made because we're stuck on the money issue? I don't know. But anyway, Billy did say earlier on three people, I think Zach Calvaverde, I'd like to give people credit. He said, there's no magic pill, no magic potion we can drink. He said, I think we executed the first half of the off season the best we've done since we've been there. I might agree with that. Certainly have evolved. We've adapted, and I feel good about our systems. I think ultimately we got credible leadership for the first time. Our players have been there for 2 weeks for summer school, and that building has been full every day. I've got confidence in our team. He said he was confident the lawsuit has not put a damper on Florida's season. Of course, Billy's 11-14. There's those numbers again. And ordinarily, probably the lawsuit wouldn't be any more than a nuisance. But because he's 11-14, it becomes a factor. And anyway, so I don't know how to deal with that. So how do you feel about things right now? And then I got some news out of Kirby Smart, who had a response to Rashada. So give me your take on what you're hearing right now from Billy and from the program. And not a whole lot, I know, but based on what little crumbs and tidbits we can gather, do you think they're progressing well?
I think he said to the people there, and there's a ton of media that shows up at that thing, especially more national media, than any other thing till the season comes is what he's been saying here since through spring training that he feels good about the way things are going. That the culture is finally where he wants it to be. He feels that the staff is where he wants it to be now. He feels good about the portal and the guys they've gotten and all that kind of stuff. And if you're there every day, you're around it as we have been. The Gainesville, the people who are there all the time. You don't get that sense of doom that you get when you read more stories from national people or people who aren't there every day,
right?
And so what little I've seen the reviews of Buddy so far, it's sort of like this is the first time they've seen this version of Bill. I think they expect him to get up there and have his garments have rent from all the woe is me, and he's just out there looking, being the Billy that he's been here, and they're thinking, he doesn't appear suicidal.
Yeah,
maybe it's not as bad at least we think he thinks it should be.
Right.
And so I think it's good in that way that they're getting sort of a closer look at how things now where I mean I won't say where they really are, but I think in Billy's mind they really are that way. That things are looking up. And so I think that's one takeaway from today is that, from the Billy side and just where the program is, that it's not the doom and gloom that everybody, here comes Mr. Hot Seat, and how are you going to survive, Billy? And because he's Billy on that. He's saying the same things, that he's told us. That's okay. Don't, I feel good about these things. And, as far as them being, hunkered down and discussing, it's sort of funny at these things. There's always been issues and stuff, but it's stuff like, would they play an 8-game or 9-game season, interesting stuff. But so much has happened just even in the past 2 weeks, with the NCAA saying, okay, you can start paying players now.
Mm-hmm.
And the proposed NCAA settlement, it's been a ton of stuff for these guys to swallow and try to digest in a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And I think they went in there with just asking Sankey, what's going on? And the one thing that did come out of this story I saw was, like every coach is dead set against the proposal that there may not be any more walk-ons. I mean, that seems like, you talk about a red line. You almost get the sense that if they pass that these guys are just going to get up en masse and saying, we're not doing this because they truly believe, A, it helps their programs to have walk-ons, and B, I think they truly believe that, having these kids who dream of coming on and walking on for State U because they love doing it is part of the whole college football experience. Because some of these guys were walk-ons themselves, and they can just recite story after story after story of kids who just had their dreams come true going out there and just being cannon fodder for it. They loved it, and they see nothing but good things about it. And one of these proposals is that that there will be a scholar, no scholarship limit, but a roster limit to where you won't have
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. You start saying you get 60 guys. That's it. And help them solve their budget problems. That's for sure. But that would be that makes sounds like a logical move, on which I'm sure that the big schools will hate. It's like when Burr Bryant used to sign 5 quarterbacks every year. They keep them from going someplace else back in the day. And they got a lot of roster limitations. That would be an interesting one. I'll have Rob Browne here for a minute from SEC sidelines. We'll see if he's heard anything about that, which I think would be interesting. And I was going to ask you as a writer before we take a break and bring Rob on here, is if you were using an adjective to describe Billy Napier's current status, I was saying embattled wouldn't be the right word. What would be the right word to describe his situation right now, or his state of mind, or his place?
One word?
Yeah.
His would be optimistic, I think.
Okay, well, how would you describe him, though? Would you describe him as embattled, or would you?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Challenge? I don't know.
Yeah, challenge would be fair because it would be Yeah, I mean, there's all this challenge, but he's more challenged than most at this point. I mean, there's no doubt that being 11-14 after 2 seasons puts him in a more challenging spot than if he were 14, even 14-11. Yeah. In battle wouldn't be it, because I think that overplays the doom and gloom of it all.
I agree. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to let you think about this subject. Bring Rob on. I'm going to tell you about our sponsor tonight, our lead sponsor, Meldon Law. And we're going to talk about this subject because everybody said when Rashada filed his suit, they even used the term Kirby gave his blessings. And I had a discussion the night before last with an attorney about this. And he said, well, that might not be the right description. We talked about what they would really say, because it sounds like he endorsed the filing the suit against Florida. And this learning city might have just said, I'm not going to stand in the way of it. But, that makes a difference, because all Gator fans hate on Kirby, which I understand they would anyway, because they think he actually directed and colluded with Rashada. So I don't know. We'll hear what Kirby has to say about that. We'll have Rob Browne on next. David, we'll discuss that. What do you think Kirby's job was, or his role was in this? I want to tell you right now about Meldon Law. They're a bunch of people who support the Gators big time. They also are a fine injury law firm, the Florida Gators official injury law firm. And they give away tons and tons of things all the time on their Facebook page. They do sponsorships, and Meldon Law has been a good partner for the Florida Gators. We appreciate them as a sponsor and all the things they've done. We had the pleasure of speaking at the Scholar Athletes Gala last Friday night, and that was quite an impressive thing. And so, by the way, they do practice law. And if you have a lawsuit pending somewhere that you're not getting the information that you like out of it, they'll give you a second opinion like a doctor. So you give them a call, Meldon Law, and they'll give you advice on where to go with this, and come by and see them. 4 locations to serve you. 1 new office in Williston, Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City. Meldon Law, they won't back down. All right, let's say good evening to the host of the SEC Sidelines Show, Mr. Rob Browne himself. Hello, Rob. How you doing?
Hey, look, I'm listening to y'all talk about that Billy Napier, one word, anxious. That's what I think he is. I think he just wants to prove everybody, hey, I can coach. But I don't think he's out or anything like that.
Is he in battle? Right? Is he in battle though? Is he?
No,
he's not. He's in a fight for his job, and I say no, but I can't. I haven't found the right word for it. Anyway, well, what I want to get to first, Rob, if I can. By the way, you can hear Rob 6 mornings or 5 mornings a week, right here on YouTube, and he does a great show with stuff around the league, what's happening in the SEC. He's got some smart aleck producer that thinks he's pretty good. As a matter of fact, his last name was Martin. Check him out, and they do a good job. All right, so here's the deal. The word on the street was, and of course, several people jumped to the conclusion that when Rashada, the lawsuit was filed, that Kirby was in the back with pom-poms going, yeah, go. And he basically colluded with Rashada, and the word was first, well, he encouraged and supported Rashada's role in this. And as I said, I talked to an attorney about that. I said, well, it might not be. So here's what Kirby said, and let me let you guys make an opinion out of it. Georgia head coach Kirby Smart said he had no idea Jaden Rashada was filing a lawsuit against Florida head coach Billy Napier and others over their reneged NIL deal until he was told so by the player the day before it occurred. Quote, he told me the day before they decided to do the lawsuit. I told him that would be between him, his family, and his attorneys, that I'm not going to get involved in it. Georgia's not involved in it in any way, Smart told reporters during a 15-minute session at SEC spring meetings. So there you have it. He's on the record clearly about that. Lawsuit, of course, filed over the fact that he was supposed to get $13.8 million is a whole other laughable story, but that's it. So, all right. So what do we say, guy? Let me ask you, Rob, since you just joined it, and you're somewhat detached from it. Do you think Kirby played a bigger role than that in it?
I don't think anything like that would have happened without the blessing from the people at the top. I'll just say that.
What does blessing mean?
They know he's doing it. Because you're not gonna, as a player, you do something like that without the coach and the staff knowing it, all hell's gonna break loose. So, and that's just human nature.
In a
nothing
normal
happens.
In a normal situation, I'd say yes, this is not normal. And also, David, am I wrong? He couldn't stand in the way. He would have a lawsuit filed against him if he tried to, right?
Well, he would probably be out a backup QB.
Well, no, he would probably have a lawsuit against him too.
Yeah. Now, I think this lawsuit has been in the works for a long, long time, far preceding his going to Georgia. Now, I do, like Rob, I find it a little bit suspicious that they were totally in the dark, that it never even came up in conversation as the two sides are feeling each other out, that, we're working on this lawsuit. We might end up suing, one of our Miami, Florida, something like that, that it wouldn't come up in conversation. And if it did, you'd say, okay. And then your way is it worth the hassle? But I don't think that Kirby is in any way, was behind this. Hey, why don't you file a suit and screw over Billy? That hadn't occurred to the Rashadas long before now that they were going to sue. And so, but I think it makes good fodder. Until somebody comes up with, anything more than just innuendo that Kirby is behind it, I don't see any reason to doubt the fact that, he says, well, that's their deal, and I think it would be, be it this or anything else, if a kid and his family is filing a lawsuit on something, even if it affects, if it's against a rival or something like that, Kirby says, well, that's your deal. I think he believes that, and the kid believes that he's got a case. He thinks he's out $13 million, and you tell him, all right, don't pursue it. But the whole thing about giving his blessing, that's one of those elastic words that what does that mean? Yeah. That he's like the Pope, and he said, or he just said, all right, that's your business. You do what you need to do. I'm just, just don't involve me in it. That's kind of that.
It could be somebody in compliance or something. I don't know. I mean, Kirby Smart said, hey, go do it. But you're right. And it's obvious that had been festering for a long time. And he got to Georgia, and then let's go do it. But if there's nothing in writing, I don't see the case.
Yeah. I think they could probably come up with something. First time that the Rashada family contacted Rusty Hardin, I'm sure I would bet your house that it was long before he transferred to Georgia.
Yeah, attorney told me that he knows Hardin's work. Of course, Hardin is very famous he has some famous clients. He of course had also Enron. He was an Enron attorney in that deal, and he's a powerful guy. And this attorney said, Rusty Hardin does not want to settle. And one of the reasons he doesn't want to settle is that he can get publicity to get other clients who also have been promised things, which is really the thing, Rob, we're going to find out about, whether the courtroom is going to have a role to play in all this. So every time a guy gets cut from a team or doesn't live up to a meal, where's this going to go? Because in the end, you also got a contractual obligation between the two parties, which is a whole other deal to deal with. When you were supposed to do this, you didn't do that. So the question becomes, how advantageous, despite what Gator fans may think of Kirby Smart, was it for him to have Rashada file that lawsuit, Rob?
I think it's a distraction from Rashada, and I don't see him even getting on the field this year because of it. And if he's going to, it's when you're like, if this is it's consuming his whole life and his handlers and everybody. And again, Kirby Smart I don't think he said go do it, but somebody up the food chain, compliance, somebody, and maybe it started a long time ago, but he's got some people telling him to do this. And again, but if there's nothing in writing, how can you do any fighting? That's what it all is going to boil down to, because everything has to do with antitrust laws. That's what my attorney Jack Turner always tells me they don't have subpoena power of the NCAA. It's about antitrust. Can you deny someone the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? That's what they'll have to go after.
Yeah,
David?
I don't know if somebody in Georgia told them don't go do this, as opposed they just didn't say don't do this. It's in the work, so okay, do what you have to do. But one way to find out for sure would be if it does go to trial, and to get these guys on the stand under threat of perjury, and especially in that way you can find out. All right, Billy, did you offer Jaden Rashada $1 million on signing day to close this deal? I'm assuming Billy's not going to perjure himself. He's going to say yes or no.
Yeah, but what evidence do they have?
Yeah, that's just it. But it's this question that he would answer under oath. So, and at that point, that would be good enough for me, because I don't think Billy's a liar anyway. But he's certainly isn't going to perjure himself and say no, I didn't offer him $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kirby would be called for any reason, but you can say Kirby, did you have anything? Did you have any conversations with Jaden Rashada before April 1st or whenever he signed about this kind of thing? Or
I'd love to see these guys on the stand.
Yeah,
I go back a long, long time ago, way back when you all were not even born. And I remember the trial of Bear Bryant had a Saturday Evening Post. I wasn't there, but guys like Fred Russell, who was an attorney and also a sports writer, talked about he was the most impressive witness they had ever seen on a witness stand. That Bryant had that power over the jury. I wonder how other guys would stand up in that situation. It'd be very, very interesting. Well, anyway, that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're going to find out about. Let me switch subjects just for 1 second. I'm sorry we'll jump back and forth here, but we'll get back to Gator football. Talk about Manny Nunnery, the report that he's going someplace else. Also, and a new, apparently, cornerbacks coach who will not be on the field for the Gators. We'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know where you guys stand on Bill Walton, or how you were in his career, or how much you followed him, or how much you covered him. I did a little bit, not a whole lot, but it was a difficult thing to understand. It's just like the difficult to understand Muhammad Ali when he first came out. People couldn't deal with it. It was just crazy. And Walton was the guy who would not speak to anybody. And he was at UCLA. And he and John Wooden were having their battles back and forth. But Walton was a jerk. He really was. He was a jerk. He apologized to the people of Portland for the way he acted there. But what's happened since he has died, people have come forward talking about Walton in a way that's beyond glowing terms about the kind of person he was and what he did. And frankly, I know he was very popular as a commentator. I didn't like him because he jumped all over the place during the game. You couldn't follow the game, but he was very popular. And I thought to myself, what makes a young man be this way? And I just read this a minute ago, and I wanted to share it because he was a different kind of cat. It's hard for us to understand those different kind of cats. And this is what he said. Rex Chapman, former basketball player, posted this. Quote, I lived most of my life by myself. This is Walton. But as soon as I got on the court, I was fine, he said to the Oregonian one time in 2017. But in life, being so self-conscious, red hair, big nose, freckles, and goofy, nerdy-looking face, I couldn't talk at all. He said, I was incredibly shy and never said a word. Then, when I was 28, I learned how to speak. Then, he says, it's become my greatest accomplishment of my life and everybody else's biggest nightmare. Mm-hmm. That was really well done. So, having read that, thinking about him now and hearing what I'm hearing people, Dr. J and people like just raving about his goal was life was to make everybody around him better, feel better, whatever. The story Michael Wilbon told about being inducted to the Hall of Fame basketball. Wilbon was sitting there at night, right, working on his speech, nervous as a cat. And Walton came to the dressing room and came in and says, Just go an extra 5 minutes, Mike. What the hell? Who cares? Tony Cornaz is not there. He can't stop you. Just go do an extra 5 minutes. Go over the thing. And he was just had a way about him, apparently, of reaching people. I didn't know he was sick, had cancer, died at 71. I'd like to get your thoughts about this guy. He's a complicated, simple man. David?
Yeah, he's one of the first guys. I started getting Sports Illustrated when I was a kid, and he was on the first cover as a freshman. And I mean, he was arguably the greatest college basketball player, certainly in the top 5 to ever come along. They talk about that Memphis State game where he was 21 of 22, and the one miss was a dunk. That's back when you couldn't dunk, so they kind of was a miss. And he was just a transcendent player who got hurt, and that really just you never really saw the Bill Walton in the NBA that he could have been, and the whole thing about him being a jerk. He was a jerk, but I think nobody knew, as you said, the other side of it, because he was, think about it. When you're that introverted and on top of being an introvert, you have a stutter, and people are always making fun of you. And you are, it's almost a curse if you're a great athlete at that point, because the thing you do best puts you under this incredible spotlight, and thousands and thousands of strangers are looking at you. And if you're self-conscious, you're going to draw inward, and you don't know how to act. And he was, he came along the hippie era, hippy dippy, Grateful age, and he wanted to do what he wanted to do. And I remember seeing a documentary. He would just go on these 100-mile bike rides in the off season, and the long and da da da. And he couldn't relate to people. He could relate, but he was just people freaked him just being around it. We saw it. I remember Ricky Williams, the running back at Texas, and he was considered the same, just a goofball, but he also had that social anxiety disorder. He said when he got on a plane, he would almost had a panic attack because people were looking at him, and that's the kind of person who needs a job working in a cubicle, where nobody. But unfortunately, these guys are the best in what the world they do, in front of people. So it was tough. But as he said, when he got over the stutter thing and worked, and then he let his guard down and he could be himself. And he was genuine. And a friend of mine who's a sports writer had also had a stuttering problem as a kid, and he and Walton struck up a friendship about that was genuine as could be. And Walton, he knows everybody, but he would always come over and ask how this guy's doing. You just didn't run into anybody who didn't love the guy after he came out of that shell, because he seemed like he's the kind of guy who would do anything for anybody.
That's true. They said anybody and everybody lived in his house. So who all lived in his house, everybody. Well, Rob, I don't know. Did you go see that game when he played against Memphis State?
We were kids, and my dad was in St. Louis for an AIA meeting, and they got tickets courtside, and he went to the game. And, of course, being from Memphis, we all remember 21 or 22, the big redhead. But, I'm a huge Bill Walton fan, always will be, because I met him one time about 7 or 8 years ago in Memphis. He was speaking at a Leadership Memphis this speaker series we have in the mornings at the Botanic Garden. And I was standing right next to him, and we just were talking, and he was so funny. And watching basketball games with him, he'd be going, David Whitley is a really outstanding point guard, but in his spare time, he's quite the pianist. I heard him do everything that Chopin did, and he was a scholar. And the family, anyway, there he goes. What a 3-pointer! And he'd go back. He had ADD real bad, and I can identify with that. But that was an era when I was growing up. Like David said, we hung on every day. We ran to the mail to get Sports Illustrated to read the written word, and Bill Walton on the front cover. And his NBA career was like a bad dream. But there have been a lot of guys who couldn't talk. Bo Jackson couldn't talk. I was at Bo's first press conference when he walked into the room as a freshman, and he was just, and I was standing 2 feet from him. And someone asked him about, you're going to be the next Herschel Walker, and he just was like, he had an anxiety attack, and he said, I just want to be Bo Jackson. And they worked with him. He overcame it. Bill Walton, same way. Bill Walton's parents were both librarians. He was just a very ordinary guy, but I just loved the bike rides. He's a deadhead, and he was just cool as hell. You know, everybody has a right to an opinion, but he made watching a basketball game as fun as watching a fight or a football game with Howard Cosell. That's how big he was, and he always will be.
I got to tell you the story about stutterers. We welcome Loren in before we go to this and tighten
Hey, Loren.
MRI. We'll get back to Loren in a second. There's some news on the coaching staff there. We'll tell you about Titan MRI, one of our sponsors, North Central Florida's newest premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. They're open for business now. They will tailor make your appointments. If you can't come conventional hours, the day or night, they will make you a personalized appointment for a night or a weekend to fit your schedule. They want you, the patient, to have a great customer service experience, and they know most people lead busy lives, and they have to accommodate them. So they will do that for you there. They do a lot of things, not the least of which is their equipment is modern. Their MRI unit has one of the largest bores, the openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units. That gives more comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. Do a lot of things for you, Titan MRI. Check them out, titanmri.com. Good evening to you, Loren. I wanted to just say, if I could tell the story quickly, because it's about people who stutter. First of all, I'm kind of sorry I didn't know Bill Walton. That's number one. I didn't know much about him. You never know the man if you don't get a chance to meet him. And I'm sorry and he was obviously a great person to many, many people. You don't hear people talking about a guy like him the way they do, saying, one coach said, not only was he the best player I ever coached, he's the best human being I've ever known. And that's not what you normally hear out of the guy. So I wanted to talk about Terry Bradshaw's relationship with Mel Tillis. Mel Tillis used to go to Vegas and sing, and Bradshaw would tag along with him every now and then and do some singing. They did the Smokey and the Bandit series. It was part 2, I believe. And the producer wanted this scene with Bradshaw and in the car with
Mel
Reynolds.
Yes. Yeah, I'll get it out in a minute. Anyway, so they got together and decided they were going to rehearse. Mel said, come on out to Vegas and we'll spend a couple of nights working on this. I want to get these lines down really good. So I did, and they would sit their chairs up and they'd sit there and the line would go something like this. And Mel would say, that guy's chasing us behind us. And Bradshaw would say, don't worry about it. Make a left in this hotel. He'll never find us over here. And Mel would say something. They wind up driving the car in the pool. So they want to get this line down perfectly, and Mel worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And so sure enough, the day they had to do the first take. So they lined up, they got in the car, they sat down, cruising down, and Mel said something about this guy behind us is running our tails. He's chasing us. And Bradshaw says, go over here and turn left and come to this hotel. They'll never see us over there. And they turned and went in, and it was perfect. And Mel was so happy because Mel, of course, was stutter. He said what he sang. And he was just beaming about it. And the producer came over to the show and knocked on the window and roll it down. I said, roll it down. He said, I can hire any 2-bit actor in Hollywood to say those lines without stuttering. Damn it. I hired you to stutter. He thought he'd done it perfectly. Anyway, so yeah, Loren, good evening to you, my friend. I don't know if you guys knew this. Apparently, Florida expects to hire a new cornerbacks coach. My understanding is that Bea Rasso, I don't know him, is on the field, off the field role. He's from Bowling Green. I didn't know that was going to happen, and I can't tell you anything about it. Loren, do you know anything about that?
No, I mean, just, add another guy with a Jordan shirt on in the Hefner Center. I mean, just one more guy to throw in the mix. Obviously, seems to be a young guy. The University of Florida has had, some decent history with guys that coached in the MAC, either as assistants or head coaches, in a lot of ways. So, Bowling Green is one of the mainstays in the MAC, kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, out there in, Northern Ohio. But, once again, it's somebody that should add to the revamped defense that I think that you'll see with the Gators, and just gives them another set of eyes during the week, to kind of help with the changes and hopefully get everybody on the same page. But off the field guy, I mean, on game day, just
As
somebody,
usual, another invisible coach we don't know anything about.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, just one more guy with a Jordan shirt on to help the cause.
Okay, I just want to get your take on it. By the way, not much news today out of Sandestin. Billy did make a comment to the media on 3, I believe it was. There's no magic potion, no magic bullet, whatever, his comments. Not much news out of there. I'd hope we hear a little something, but apparently not. And now I'll get you to comment on this because both David and Rob have already commented on it. Kirby Smart came out today and said he had nothing to do with the filing of the lawsuit, and he told me the day before they decided to do the lawsuit, and I told him it would be him and his family as attorneys. I'm not going to get involved in it. Georgia's not involved in it anyway. He said, told reporters spring meetings. Your thoughts on that, Loren?
I mean, I can see that, and I mean, obviously Rashada and his family and probably Rusty Harden, once they kind of got their ducks in a row, they said, well, you need to go tell Coach Smart what's going to be going on, because this could be seen as Georgia versus the University of Florida. As much as I, have a disdain for the Bulldogs, I mean, this is Jaden Rashada versus Billy Napier and others. And, I think that's one of the things we like, for particularly during this slow news cycle, to maybe make it a thing, that Kirby Smart's behind it and things like that. But I mean, common sense would just say that he was made aware, and just like he said, I mean, support may not be the word that Kirby Smart used, but he didn't try to talk him out of it.
Yeah, I agree. So, actually, he also couldn't stop it legally. So
yeah, I mean, he couldn't stop him. So I mean, I think it's just one of those things where you go and you say, "Hey, good luck to you,"
right?
And like David said,
right.
You're gonna lose a player if you try to stop him, possibly. Yeah. So you just kind of go on with it, and in this changing landscape, you really can't talk the kid out of it. So here we are.
All right, guys, before we start going through some games here, some lines came out today on the opening weekend. Did you hear Nunnery apparently now has picked a school, Texas State? You heard that? I thought he might be coming back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if he entered the portal that his goal was to go to Texas State, but I guess he found out that, the market speaks, and the market said, you'd probably be better off just biding your time here. It's poor old UF and the SEC you're going to go from, medium fish, big pond to big fish, tiny pond. Maybe that's what he wanted.
Seems to me like something wasn't right with him and Armstrong, Loren. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he would be a guy that, supposedly in this creeper scheme is kind of a tweener. And, this scheme kind of seems to make a living off those guys. Rob can attest to that, being at Auburn. Some of the hybrid guys that can rush the passer, can cover. But, just this year just didn't seem to really go right for him. I think he battled some injuries. And, yeah, I mean, maybe going back to Texas, and Texas State and being able to play probably every down, probably didn't like being a situational guy possibly. And, just wanted to get on the field. So, more power to him.
Yeah. All right. So here's the information on the ball, on the games, some lines to talk about. We don't have to pick these games. It gives us an idea of who stands where. The more I talk to people outside the program, including Feinbaum, who was one of the ones, that Miami game is absolutely critical to Florida, they say. They feel like that is one that sets the tone for the season, because they've got to win that game to set up their first 6 games. And to get to that number of 5-1 or 6-0, whatever they like to think they can be at, Miami becomes a key. And then, of course, the back half of the season, we know how that plays out. But right now, if I said to you, make a line on Miami and Florida, Rob, what would you say?
Why does everybody think Miami is this big powerhouse? I mean, they're not very good. I mean, Florida's struggling. We know Florida's struggling. I'd say right now, Miami would be a 4 or 5 point favorite just because they are not struggling as much as Florida. But I will not be shocked at all if Florida doesn't just curb stomp them in the first, because Florida's got so much pent up momentum. They're just looking for somebody to hit.
All right, David, make a line on Miami and Florida opening game.
The fact it's in the swamp, I think, will play a big role. And so, but I think I'd go with Miami by a point right now.
By a point, okay. Loren, or do you make that line at?
I would say Miami by 3.5. So Miami favored by 3.5. Quarterback has a little bit more pizzazz than Graham Mertz, and then the 2 running backs they got kind of got some star power. So the media is going to jump over that -3.5.
That's actually the exact line that they had. I don't know whose it was. I wish I could tell you. Was 3.5. I would be kind of insulted if I was the Gators. They could put a team at 3.5 coming into my place to play. My gosh. All right, so a couple more in here. Rob, these are games.
Win more than 5 ball games, then you can be offended.
Yeah.
Okay. You're harsh, man. Okay, so. I hear you.
Hey, we were all right. I had 4.5. David had 1.
Yeah, you all did
3.5.
Yeah, you all did good. I would have rated more of an even game myself, but that's just
we're going to Vegas.
Vegas don't make money on push, so.
That's right. That's why there's a lot of tall buildings out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so a couple of the games of interest that weekend, which I think will be significant. Clemson, Georgia's a big game. On the surface, you think that Clemson might be ready to compete at some level. I don't know what happened to Dabo. He's dropped off the face of the earth. Right now, if you're making a line, David, what would you make that Clemson-Georgia line right now? I guess the game's at Georgia, right?
It's in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that usual thing. I would go Georgia by 12. I think Georgia's – you talk about a team with pin-up anger. They've lost 1 game in the last, 3 years, and that was by 3 points. And then suddenly everybody thinks that it's over. The dynasty's dead. And I think they are a team that is just itching to go out there and reassert itself.
What did you say? How many points would you give Clemson?
12.
12. Okay, Rob. Georgia
-17, and I think they'll do to Clemson what they did to Oregon a couple of years ago.
17. All right, Loren.
Georgia -13.
Once again, Loren nailed it. You got the same list I do. Is that what you?
Hey man, look, I'm good. I'm good at this. That's why
13,
I'm on here.
Yeah, good job, man. That's terrific.
More in the Greek.
Yeah,
That's right. He's nailing it.
I just feel like this helps us get closer to football. Talk about scores and predictions and who's favored. Let me give you 1 or 2 more. This LSU USC game is going to be interesting. I don't know what kind of team USC is going to feel, but let's start with you, David. LSU and USC.
Is that another one of those?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Field specials. Sounds like.
Sorry, I can't tell you, but probably so.
Yeah.
It's in Las Vegas, isn't it?
I don't know.
That sounds like a Vegas game.
Yeah.
I would go. This will show my regional bias.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go LSU by 7.5.
7.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Rob, what do you think?
I'm thinking it's going to be LSU -2.
LSU -2. All right, Loren.
LSU.
If you get this, I'm gonna have your phone tapped.
LSU -6.
Dang, you almost got it. LSU -6.5. There you go. Interesting. Very good, guys. I'll do one more. Let's see. How about Colorado? No, Colorado State. I don't do that. Let's go. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. There's a good one for you. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. Rob?
On that one, I'm going to take Notre Dame minus 4.5.
All right. David?
I go just because they have 3 years under Freeman and Elko's first game. I'd go Notre Dame 5.5.
Oh, damn. Loren?
Marcus Freeman, my homeboy, 4.5. Minus
okay. 4. You're all highs, -1. Texas A&M. Yeah. So there you go. All right, good job, guys. Pretty good, guys. All right, so let's put on our thinking caps for a second.
Who's the QB at Texas A&M? Anybody know?
Connor Wigman.
No.
I
Connor Wigman.
I don't even know. I don't even know the coaches anymore. Yeah. How can I name the quarterback?
Notre Dame minus 4.5.
It's not Jimbo.
Yeah, that's
Mike Elko used to be at Notre Dame, before he came to A&M. Then he went to Duke. Now he's back.
Right. It's not hard to follow. We're gonna have charts. Or is this? Who is this? Imagine trying to figure out who's playing where and what. It's crazy. All right. So final thoughts tonight before we go to our break and talk about our sponsors. As we count it down, we're hoping it's going to be a little more simplified. It's us versus them. The good old college game we know will return to norm, and hopefully the fire will still be there. There won't be this confusion or this reticence to make a move or make a stab or do something. I think it's like a bunch of blind mice trying to follow somebody right now. And who will be the leaders? Who will step out? Like they need a Kirby. They need Kirby Smart. And they need Nick Saban. They're going to miss a guy like Nick Saban. So having said that, I have no idea how the season is going to turn out. But what would be the one thing, other than the obvious, meaning that, players moving back and forth, what would be the one big change that's coming that we're not seeing, that we won't know the result of something happening, unexpected consequences that you say you should have looked after this or you should have watched this, or this is more important. Like I think right now we would say NIL deals were out of hand last year with Rashada. So what are the things that they should guard against? They put the guardrails on, they do something. Each of you get 30 seconds to say, here's what they're going to have to look out for. Let's start with you, Rob.
I think they're going to have to look out for fans boycotting games in the next few years if this crap doesn't get under control, because they don't put some teeth in these contracts and these guys can just go get a bounty, play 3 months, leave, go do it again and again. The fans will throw their hands up and walk out and they'll boycott. They better watch out for that because that will happen.
What could they do about it? I don't know.
Fans control football. They control everything. They're the consumer. And you've got, that is going to happen. It will be a populist movement. It'll be nationwide.
But the fans don't have any power at the moment. They do have.
They have the money. They'll cut the money off.
Well, that's the big roots boosters. That's a whole different deal there, yes. The money is going to be the big ticket item to see. So, yeah. All right. So, Loren, your thoughts about what's the one big stumbling block they should be looking for right now?
I think it's just with the decision that just was handed down, that's basically going to once again change the NIL landscape again, where the money will be put into the hands of the schools, and now they could possibly pay the players from within, and what's that going to look like? And the sad thing about it is, for the first time in 10 years, college football was going to receive a huge boost in July with the new video game coming out. So, I mean, it was going to really jump off the page and really find excitement for the season. The game usually comes out about a month before, in the past. And so I think, unfortunately, they've kind of put themselves in a situation like Rob said, where the fans are kind of in peril because you have this excitement with the game and things like that usually used to usher in the college football season. But people are kind of fatigued with all this, what looks like some selfish some selfish athletes at times.
All right, Mr. Whitley.
I would like to agree with Lauren and Rob, but I'm afraid that I think that this game is just so popular that it's almost idiot proof, and that no matter what they do, people are going to show up.
I agree.
I mean, NIL and this craziness, it's been going on for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And in the past 2 years, you've had record TV ratings. Attendance is up everywhere. And I think once playoffs start and people start talking about that, what they're going to do is, man, we should have done this years ago. Because I think the interest is going to be off the scale. And I think there is a group that won't show up at games they used to, but I think that a much larger group will tune in to what's on TV, and that's really what matters.
That's a great point. And if you follow sports as I have all these years, I've seen this movie over and over and over. Fans are going to quit because they did this. They're going to quit the game. They're not going to go to the ball games. They've had it, and yet they keep coming back like lemmings, even more, paying more money. You can't. It is idiot proof. The fans are not going to go away. They may get mad and not buy season tickets one year. They'll be back.
It's not like they used to say about Major League Baseball. The game is better than the people who run it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and in spite of what,
Go ahead.
But I still think fans are going to get. There'll be a game or two. They'll make a statement. But I mean, you're right. It is idiot proof.
Yeah. All right, great job, guys. David, thank you for staying the whole time. Rob, thank you. Don't forget to tune him in. SEC Sidelines, Reed, Lauren, and the Gator Bait, and of course David and the Gainesville Sun award-winning columnist. Guys, great job. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Good night. Enjoyed it.
All right, folks, I want to tell you about my sponsors. And I told you about two of them. Now I'll tell you about Renstar. Renstar is such a special group of people. The things that they do in my community of Ocala, Florida, all over the North Central Florida area, they're constantly looking for better ways to serve you, to get you better medications for what you need in today's world. And it's a process. These things don't fall off the back of trucks. They have to go out and find out what works and what doesn't. And the way they do this is through clinical trials. They get people to sign up for clinical trials. And they have a group that takes the pill and one that doesn't. And they find out what works on who. And then if it works, they bring new therapies to the public in a safe manner, which is the way they do it. So they wouldn't exist. Those things wouldn't exist without the commitment of you, the volunteers. So if you decide to participate in Renstar's clinical research, you can do that by going online to Renstar and finding out the details. You could receive study-related medications and procedures at no charge to you or your insurance program. You might gain access to new investigational medications or devices not otherwise available, and you can receive compensation for your time and travel. It's a good thing. The folks at Renstar are looking out after you and me. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers for the health questions of today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our guests tonight, Loren Meadows, David Whitley, and Rob Browne. Good job, fellows. Have a good night. Back tomorrow night with Allie on the program, and we'll see what we got. That's always a good night. So come see us tomorrow night. Thanks.